Alright, finally, I think in this video we can accomplish finishing out our objective to port the functionality from the iframe into Svelte. So let's hook it up. The only thing that's missing now is actually calling the functions. So we have highlighting the different components. When you edit them, you're getting the entity ID, the component type, and the data. So we need to send that to the backend. One way we can do that is in the orchestrator. We are creating the orchestrator, and the orchestrator is creating the app. It passed in the WebRTC client. It could just as easily pass in the space channel. However, on the Svelte side, once the app had it, we would need to also pass it through the layers, unless we abstract channel outside of orchestrator, and it's just, let's see, where are we creating it? We're creating it here, but then there's a series of operations. We're creating the socket and the channel according to the position, scene manager. Let's see, get my position and rotation actually comes from persistence or evaluating the spawn point. So it's kind of a catch-22. We need the scene to have been somewhat processed. Well, we just need this data point, which we could get from just data. That way it doesn't have a dependency on the scene. The other thing we could do is we could rely on the signal hub to send a message through and then observe that message, but it's another layer of indirection. And I don't feel like it's something we need to throttle or do any things about, so I kind of want to just give them access. So let's play with that idea. Let's move channel instantiation outside of orchestrator so that it could be pulled in similar to signal hub itself, similar to session persistence. Session persistence is just instantiated. Channel needs a slug and an initial position and rotation. Because if we separate channel into its own file, we can pull the channel in as an import and then just use it to send messages out without passing it from component to component. But it does need to be initialized. Or if not initialized, it needs a access to the spawn point, which means that now it needs some things. Yeah, this gets tricky. Gets tricky. Well, we have Signal Hub. We can refactor this later. Let's get it working first. Right? Let's send a message through Signal Hub. Okay, so we have Signal Hub, which is instantiated all on its own file. It's just a subject of signal event. And Orchestrator, the file, pulls in this import right at the top. So we're getting Signal Hub. And it's just, you can sprinkle it anywhere now, because it's a reference to something that's already been instantiated. And let's try to do that in the component. So we'll pull in import Signal Hub from Signal Hub. And on change, we'll send Signal Hub next. And it has to be event, which is a string, which is, what's the event? Modify component. And what's the next one? Data or payload? Payload, which will be component data. Now then we're going to have to trap all kinds of different messages over there. So if I wanted to have fewer payloads, I could say spaces API, and then the payload has the function name, which is modify component with broadcast, and then the args is a list, and it will just be data. So component data. So modify component with broadcast takes this space. Oh, it needs an entity ID, type, and data. So entity type data. So we need entity ID, component type, and data. So that's what we're sending to Signal Hub. And now, let's see if we're getting this. So let's go to Orchestrator. Well, first let's see if there's any errors. We'll do this, open this up. We go to grid, position, pull this up. Okay, don't see any errors. Oh, scene manager getting spaces. So it looks like I'm registering for our scene manager getting. Okay, where's this? Okay, so somebody's listening for it. This guy's listening to everything and just printing it out. But more importantly, on the orchestrator side, we should listen for something. Okay, forward space API to the channel. So we can say this Signal Hub. We don't even need the this anymore, right? I don't think we need this. We're passing it in here. And just say Signal Hub. Orchestrator doesn't even need it. Don't pass it in. All right, where am I? Signal Hub, subscribe, or pipe to filter. And what do I want? I want where message and the message event is equal to space API. Give me those. And then I will send it off. So I get the message, which of course is a signal event, and I just do this channel, space channel dot push, and my event is message event, and my payload is message payload. If I do this on the space channel side, I need to handle in space API. So do handle in. Let's let it crash and just see what it is. So I'll come here, I'll do this, do this. This position and do we get a crash? No, nothing happened. Let's restart this. Let's move the cone back down. Cone, position, cone is too high. Make that a 1. Did we get a crash? Join. Alright, I don't think we're receiving anything. Alright, let's check again. Component. Spaces API. Did we get... Okay, so Scene Manager is getting Spaces API. Spaces API. We also want to receive that on Orchestrator. Spaces API. There we go. Okay, now we should get a crash. There's our crash. So we need to add the handle in to space channel. Define handle in spaces API and your args. Args. Function. Function. There's the socket. Return no reply and the socket. What do we call in here? So in Elixir, you can call the function apply with the atom, which is xr.spaces module. The function will be string to atom, the function, and args, which is a list of the arguments, which is the entity ID, position, or type, and data. And this should return something, but should we return something? Maybe. I don't think so, because we're going to broadcast. That's actually going to broadcast, so we don't need to return anything here. So it should be handled on the back end now. We jump into the space. Okay, let's move the cone down. It's at 5. Let's make it 1. And something crashed. Okay, so modify component is undefined or private. Modify component with broadcast. Is it now? Spaces. Modify component with broadcast. Oh, it needs a space. It needs a space. Gotcha, gotcha, gotcha. Handle in. We got to give it one more thing, which is socket assigns space. Is that right? When you join a space, you have the slug. Now we don't have the space here. So we can get it. It's probably worthwhile to get it. I mean, really, we don't need the space, right? We just needed the ID. Socket assigns slug. Okay. Spaces needs a space. Okay, let's assign the space. Join. After join. Alright, after join with all this stuff, we get the href and we insert that into the socket. And then we allow presence tracking. Push that, and the socket assigns that. Yes, let's also xr spaces get space by the slug, which is socket assigns slug. And what does this return? This returns what? Get by, which returns what? Just returns the entity. And socket equal assign into the socket space. Come on now. Space and space. So now that is in there, and then you can do this. Undefined function apply for help apply. The module, the function, oh, yes, of course. The function name is actually function, and this is one of the args. Stick that in the front. All right. join the space, menu, go to cone, position, lower that to 1. Hey, 2. Move it left. So good. Change the color. Alright. Nice. And move the sphere. Let's make the sphere bigger. Scale in Y direction. 2. And let's change the. Oh, my foot. Oh. Change that color. Move it up. Okay. Alright, so we have this tied in. All of the. Oh, we still need one more thing, which is. Okay, 2 more things. Delete and adding new entities. Alright, so how do we. Okay, we can add a box. Drop down list at the top. Now this gets from a list of supported things from the backend, which we would need to pass somewhere. Let's see, we could make a call to an API. Okay, that's kind of the drawback, is you can easily get this with a function call on the back end. In the front end, you have to pass it in. So that's the annoying thing. Although hard coding them in the front end and hard coding them in the back end is the same thing, right? So we just have a component list. Where is it? Is it entities? Maybe it's entity. Yeah. We kind of just have this list and who's using kinds. Really, it's just in this type of deal. It's the only place that's using kinds. So we can remove this in the back end later. So we can put that in a component. On the let's make a component for add entities. So let's make an add entity component. And in here, let's say options equals that list. And then we can make a select options option. Select. And let's try each options as option. Close the each, and the name can be option. The value can be option as well. And then this part can be add entity. What does this look like? So on the entity list, you can just put that at the top of this part, I guess. We'll import add entity component. Alright, what does that look like? Okay, we've got add entity, and we've got a drop down of totally invisible stuff. Screw this up. Select and option. Okay. What does this part look like? Select and option value, and then it has the value in between. I'm not even sure it needs all of that. So we need an on what? On change? Let's do let selected entity be box, I guess. And we can say selected equal say if selected entity equal option. On change, we want to do something, right? Let's just say that the selected entity equals actually, what happens here? We should get an event. Event and console log. Console log the event. So does that make it selected? No, it did not. And what happens when you change this? You get that. Change. Target. Target. Is there a value? V. Svelte. Get. Select. Value. Yeah. And this thing, how do you get this? You do this. On submit, yeah, but Here we go. On change. The value is question. Question is select value equals selected. On change answer equal blank. Oh, it clears an answer, but the value is selected. Okay. Each question says question value is that. And oh, you're just binding it. You're just binding it to selected. Okay. Value equal selected entity. Let's just call it type, selected, because we already have something called selected entity in a different component. I don't want to be confused. So I don't need this bit. I think we need this. So on change, I don't even need this part because I'm just interested in when you click the confirmation button. Because over here we have a add button, and so here we should have an add button which will take that and do something. So let's add a button and then add an on click and show me what the selection is. So if I did select box, it's box. If it's cone, it's cone. Oh, no. Grid. Oh, it's always box. It's always box selected. Whoops. Show me what's the markup for this. So select. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. With questions, we have selected, answer, handle, submit, selected ID. Input, bind the value to the answer. Oh, I think I have to do something here, right? So selected answer. Okay, bind value selected. There we go. It's a box, it's a cone, it's a spawn point, and when we click on add, we want it to send a message. Let's import signal hub from signal hub and signal hub next. The event is spaces API. The payload is function is add entity and broadcast. Is that a thing? With broadcast. Takes a space, entity kind. So we'll give it args. The entity kind is selected. Here's where we also need to subscribe to it, because when you add something, we got to add it into the list. But let's see what happens first. Let's try to add a box at the origin. Yeah, it works, but we don't have a box here. Plane or cone or sphere? Yeah. Sphere is probably inside it. Yeah, move it up. Okay. On the other side, we can delete these things. Add a box. Add a sphere. Add a sphere. Cone. Okay. So how will we subscribe to that? And okay, so we're successful in adding the entity. We need to update our list of entities. So should the entity list watch out for that? Entities was this. Import. So when you added it, what happened here? Let's add a box. Scene manager getting spaces API add entity with broadcast. Scene manager entity created. We got entity created with this business. So this is something that needs to be registered, unregistered. So could you do signal hub dot pipe and filter? So we need, yeah, okay, import filter from RxJS operators. take a message, and the message dot event must equal entity created. That ends the filter, that ends the pipe. Hold on, can't see. There we go, that ends the pipe. Try. I can't tell if we need so we have the message. I'm going to do something with this. Console.log entity list getting message. Oops. Okay, cannot read properties of undefined reading pipe. Let me just talk about this part. Let's just, what is the message here? JSON stringify actual message entity list. What are you getting? Okay, let's just try Signal Hub then. Entity list getting event. Okay. Right here, we seem to be. Are we still getting it? In space. Okay. This payload is an entity, so we can just add it to the list. I feel like entities equal, put it at the bottom. Oh, there it is. got a delete button now. Now, does this happen twice? It seems to be okay. Delete button. So in my, okay, so we're showing entities, each entity name, and we'll just, next to the name, we'll just do a span, and at times, I should put a little X next to everyone. Okay, so if you click, maybe that doesn't do anything. If you click on the X on click, we want to delete the entity. Right? So call function delete entity with this entity, and const delete entity given the entity so you're requesting to delete an entity. Request delete entity. Request delete entity. So we need to make a request, and our request is to signal hub next with a event that is spaces API, and payload, which is the function name, is delete entity with broadcast. And it takes the entity ID, I believe. Arms is the entity ID. So then that'll give the message. It'll delete it in the scene manager, but we need to remove it out of here. But we'll wait for the event. So we need to have another filter up here. And we'll see, I think it's entity deleted. Let's just we'll console log it out before we do anything. Okay, so we'll delete this box. Delete. Okay, so we're getting entity deleted and a payload with an ID. So we're going to filter on entity deleted. And so we'll do a filter entities filter. What does filter do? Filter keeps anything that is true. So, oh sorry, this is entity ID not equal to message payload ID. So we should keep everything that's not it. So box, get rid of the box, get rid of the box, get rid of the cone, get rid of another box, get rid of another box, add a sphere, get rid of the sphere, add a cone, color the cone, whoops, I gotta prevent default on that, right, form submit, component, form on change, Svelte, prevent default, submit form. On submit, yeah, prevent default, and do what? Yeah, do the same thing. So let's move this into a function. Where you provide the entity. Okay, let's make a function. Const, callbacks. Const update equals a function that, since these are already variables that are here, entity and component, we're just calling that. So then when this happens, we'll just call the function. Okay, in both cases, we're just doing call the function for update. Call the function for update. So cone, change the color to red, enter there, that's better. Whoa, why did it still submit the form? Or is that a reload? Cone, color. No, it's still submitting the form. Svelte, prevent form submit on enter key. That's what it takes. So what happens if we didn't have this? It still didn't submit the form. Doesn't submit the form. On submit, prevent default. Handle submit. Handle submit, submit true, submit false. Okay, that does submit the form. On submit, prevent default. But I already have that. What's this? Suppose something was amiss here, or what? Or oh wait, here. Component still an error. Okay, what's up with this? Oh, I don't need all that, huh? Just say update. Import component. Okay, so this is still what's going on here. Encountered type error. Payload. Oh. Okay. Payload ends here. Next ends here. That to end the next, and then you don't need that. There you go. And on submit, on change. So prevent default. That looks a lot cleaner. Where are we? Join menu, cone, position, go up, enter. Yes. Change the color. FF00. Yes. Okay. And you can delete it. And you can add another plane. Move it up. Did it take? What? Plane. Position. 2. Enter. Okay. Oh. 1. Change focus. 2. Change field. Okay. Plane. Position. 0. Oh, it's hard to know which element is highlighted. So, okay, I can make some tweaks to this, but overall, I think everything is hooked up now. Add a box, and where's the cone? Where's the cone? Position is way up there. No, where is it? Cone, position, scale, 10. Yeah, where is this cone? Move the grid. Oh, is it inside the box? Why do I still have a plane? Okay, so something's a bit weird. This side still thinks I have a grid. Okay, crash. And now it's updated as a plane. So something happened where I'm not getting the right message here. So I can delete this plane, add a grid back. Interesting. This is submitted with a value. I have a grid. I have a cone. Add another plane. Let's move the plane up. So if I change focus, if I change focus, I think I need an on blur. On blur should do it too. Yeah. Plane, color, position, push it back to the right. Cone, red, scale, that's cool. Delete the cone, delete the plane. Okay, I'm not sure how I got into that bad state, but I'll make a note, keep an eye on it. This concludes this video.